Hey guys, Chris here from christhefreelancer.com, and in today's video, I'll be sharing with you my experience as a digital nomad here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Now, I know I might have said in the last destination review that Las Palmas was my favorite destination outside of Asia, but I think that Playa del Carmen takes the cake on this one. The food is amazing and inexpensive, the beaches are stunning, and the list of things here to do is near infinite. So without further ado, let's get into the evaluation. Before we get into the first category though, I wanted to give you guys a quick overview of the city. This here is Playa del Carmen. It's situated on the Caribbean shoreline of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula between Cancun and Tulum. Right here is 5th Avenue, and if Playa del Carmen had a downtown area, this would be it. But it's very, very touristic. There are two main areas to stay in Playa. This one is called Centro, and this is where I recommend you stay. It's walking distance to everything you need, including the beach. And then the other area, Playa Car, is where all the resorts are. So I wouldn't recommend staying there for digital nomads. Basically, the area between the highway and the beach is where it's at. So choose to situate yourself somewhere in that area and you should be fine. The reason why I mentioned the geography of Playa del Carmen in this video is because I'm going to be making a few references to 5th Avenue throughout this video. But with that out of the way, let's get straight into cost of living. Okay, so the first thing I should note is that while Playa del Carmen is in Mexico, it's a very American kind of place. 15 years ago, Playa del Carmen was just a fishing village, but now it's grown into a small city of more than probably 200,000 people. And this has been driven mainly from tourists and expats from, the US and Canada, but also from the South as well. And what this means is that Playa del Carmen is either quite cheap or really expensive depending on where you stay, what you eat, and where you hang out. So first, let's talk about accommodation. Right now I'm sitting in our studio apartment here in Playa del Carmen. It's just off 30th Avenue, and it cost us 962 Australian dollars through Airbnb.com. Now, as I say in every video, there's always somebody who calls me out on this. Yes, we pay extra to use Airbnb, but the convenience of being able to arrive and just get started straight away is valuable to us. So of course, I think you'll be able to get that price way down, especially if you're further away from Centro. However, as I said before, I recommend that you stay in Centro, but you should be able to find a rental cheaper than that for this kind of quality if you were to go look on the ground. For food and drink, oh my God, I mean, Mexican food is so good. I haven't had this good local food since we were in Thailand. Depending on where you go, it can be cheap or expensive, but it's generally amazing wherever you go. For instance, Las Quecas is a fast food chain that I've been going to a few times. 13 pesos for quesadillas there and 15 pesos for a sope. You can go even cheaper if you go on the street. I got empanadas for 10 pesos each, but you get unlimited salad and sauce, so you just can pack on the pico de gallo and the habanero sauce, and you've got yourself a meal there for maybe 20, 30 pesos. Another example is a casual sit-down restaurant called Torta Santa Fe. That's near us. We pay 40 to 60 pesos to eat a really nice Mexican sandwich. So yeah, you'll find a lot of different types of Mexican cuisine here. If we go on the upper range of Mexican food, our favorite restaurant in Playa del Carmen, and we happened to end up here on the first night we were here, is El Fogón. And they actually have a few locations now, but it's a sit-down restaurant. It's got amazing food, and most things cost under 200 pesos. So very affordable for the quality you're getting, and I highly recommend you try the tacos al pastor. Those are going to be hard to give up once we leave here in Mexico. For international food, you're of course going to pay a little bit extra. There are some mid-range options, but then there are some really high-end options as well. Starting at the lower range, I had a few meals at Subway. They obviously have some American chains here. I've been eating the sub of the day, which was only 39 pesos. but they can charge up to 100 pesos for a foot long. In terms of eating other American food, we are going to the US next, so we didn't really eat a lot of American food, but we did find some good Italian places. Don Chendon, which have these deep dish Chicago style pizzas, quite affordable for what you're getting. And another place we went to was Sabrina, and had some pizza and pasta there. In terms of Western food, I love a good Western breakfast on the weekends, and that'll set you back about 100 to 150 pesos. The Chinese food here is some of the least expensive we found in the world. It's really good value for money, especially considering it fills you up, a lot of noodles, a lot of rice. And then on the upper range of Western or foreign food in Playa del Carmen, we had a brunch, lovely brunch at Plank, which included a little bit of a buffet plus a main of our choosing, and that was 450 pesos. And then you can go so far as to have a unique dining experience, which we did at the Frida Kahlo experience. It's probably more than $100 to dine there, but it's an experience that you wouldn't do every day. So just to summarize all of that, you can realistically pay anywhere from like $1 for a small lunch to hundreds of dollars for a fancy meal. But on average, I'd say I spent about 50 to 150 pesos, for an average meal. For groceries, we did our fair share of groceries this month. Have a small kitchen here at the apartment, so we were able to cook at home. It seemed inexpensive at first, the grocery prices, but when I compare it to some of the samples I've taken in other locations like Belgrade, it turns out to be a little on the expensive side. I'm going to throw some numbers up on your screen now. Obviously, the more Mexican the item is, the cheaper it's going to be by comparison. For instance, avocados and tortillas were less expensive than what we are used to. But I think Mexico might be similar to what we're used to in Thailand, where the cost of eating local often matches what you'd pay to cook at home. The one thing I'll say on the groceries front is we're shopping at these big supermarkets like Mega. They even have Walmart here. There's another one called Aki, all near where we're staying here. But I mean, if we went to a local market, perhaps we could have got that cost down. Maybe grocery stores is not where the locals shop. So that's another factor to consider with the grocery prices. Alcohol, as you would expect, is cheap. I don't really drink wine or spirits, but beer, very affordable. If you buy at the convenience store, it's about 10 to 20 pesos. At a restaurant, like let's say 30 to 50 pesos. And out of the bar, maybe around like 50 pesos. That to me is quite affordable, especially when drinking out. It's often as cheap as drinking coffee or having a soft drink. So I drank beer a lot more often here when I was eating out than I do usually. And speaking of coffee, we found it similar to what we'd experienced in Thailand, where you can usually pay more for your coffee than for a local meal from a local vendor. So the coffees range from 30 to 50 pesos for like a cappuccino is what I usually drink. But it all depends on how touristic the area is. For instance, I had one coffee near a co-working space on the other side of the highway. That was 27 pesos. And then I had a cappuccino at Our Cacao on 5th Avenue, was 44 pesos. Same drink, different price. For transport, if you stay in Centro, Playa del Carmen is very walkable, and I really appreciate that. But if you need to get anywhere else, there are taxis. They quote up front, and so it's important to ask what the price is so you're not getting ripped off. We didn't do it that often because we kind of take for granted that having a meter or using Uber, but there were times when we had to use taxis, and to get around this area it usually only cost 30 to 60 pesos at a time. For longer distances, there's things called colectivos here, which are kind of like shared vans that have routes, and they just continually driving, and then you can hop in. That was really good for getting back from Tulum, for example. We just paid 45 pesos each, and we were on this quick bus straight from Tulum to the center of Playa del Carmen. Very affordable. Otherwise, you can take the ADO bus, which is like 75 pesos, but you sit in like a nice tour bus. It actually ends up taking longer often with the ADO bus though, because they have stops in between at all the resorts and stuff. If you're going between places, I definitely recommend colectivos. Otherwise, Playa del Carmen is quite a bikeable town, and they have a special bike path that extends down the 10th Avenue, which is parallel to 5th Avenue, So yeah, it's pretty bike friendly. I have some friends here that I've met that usually bike everywhere. Yeah, if you like human powered transport as well, you're gonna like Playa del Carmen. And finally, for phone plans, there were only 2 options when we arrived at the airport: 600 megabytes and 1 gigabyte provided through AT&T. It was 150 pesos for the 600 megabyte and 200 pesos for the 1 gigabyte. So we took the 1 gigabyte, but then of course that wasn't enough for a whole month for us, so we had to top up, and it was the same price for topping up. So not the absolute cheapest, but pretty affordable. Overall, for cost of living in Playa del Carmen, I haven't calculated all the expenses for the month, but you can sure to be seeing that on the blog post coming out soon. So yeah, make sure if you want more detail, head to the blog post, christhefreelancer.com/Playa del Carmen for digital nomads. For cafes and co-working, it should be clear by now that if you've been following me for a while, you'll know I love my co-working. And for this trip to Mexico, I had my spot picked out beforehand, and that was of course Nest Co-working. And I didn't really feel the need to leave Nest once I got there. But just for you guys, I checked out a few other spots just in case you, for whatever reason, don't want to work out of Nest. So starting at the beginning, of course, Nest Co-working. I decided on Nest because it seemed to be the only co-working space that really catered to digital nomads, and I'd seen other nomads tag themselves there, and it just seemed like the most appropriate place for me. I was pleasantly surprised when I arrived. The team were really accommodating, and the internet was good enough. The space is good, and there's plenty of other digital nomads in there, so I met some cool people through that space as well. So I'd recommend Nest. The other thing about it is the location is the most central out of all the co-working spaces. The second space I checked out, called Cowork Inn, has faster internet, but it's near the small airport, close to Playa Car. For me, that's too much of a walking distance, and in terms of other digital nomads working there, it wasn't like Nest at all. The third place I checked out was called Work Zone, and that was on the other side of the highway, so an even longer walk, but you know, the staff were really friendly there. The internet was good, and if it wasn't for the long distance, that could be an option as well. So those are basically the only co-working spaces in Playa del Carmen. As for cafes, there's not much in the way of productive spaces because, you know, this is a tourist town. People aren't usually coming here to work from cafes, but I checked out a few that were recommended from my research. One was called Bendito, one was called Choo Choo, which I saw a few other nomads there, and Acacao, which is a chain of coffee shops here, was recommended as well, but I didn't actually give it a go. I just went in and tested the Wi-Fi. All of them are okay, but they're not perfect. I mean, I didn't find PowerPoints at any one of them, so not a place I'd spend the whole day working by any means, but those are a few options if you really don't want to do co-working. In terms of lifestyle and things to do, this region of the world is just wow. Like, I think somebody was telling me the other day, like, you could do something different every day and you wouldn't run out of things to do for a year. I mean, you've got cenotes, you've got diving trips, you can go boating, ancient Mayan ruins, you can go party in Cancun, beach it up in Tulum, and specifically in Playa, you have the beach, you have shopping malls, lots of restaurants, obviously, and food stands, grocery stores. So for all your day-to-day activities and your weekend activities, you're sorted basically. And a few things that we personally got up to that I would recommend. Number one, seeing cenotes. And if you don't know what cenotes are, you just have to check them out. Look them up, they're amazing. They're these water holes, but they lead to an underground river, and they just have the most beautiful water and like vegetation growing in them. And there's some that are like in caves underground, and it's just beautiful. Another thing we did was diving, and diving's huge here. There's so many diving shops. We recommend Diversity Diving. Those are the guys we went with. And there's plenty of reefs here near Cozumel. This region is perfect for that. 3, if you just want to chill out, hanging by the beach is great, and it's amazing at sunset there on the beach, and the water is beautiful. It's Caribbean Sea, so it's just stunning. Reminded us of our trip on Nomad cruise, the beaches. But in Playa, the closer you are to Centro, the more packed they are with people. So if you need to get away from that, maybe go down to Playa Car, or maybe take a trip to Tulum. And so speaking of Tulum, that's a good day trip to take, is actually going to Tulum. There's other places you can go to, like the island of Cozumel. You can go to Cancun if I think the main thing to do there is party, or Isla Mujeres, which is kind of like the island near Cancun, whereas Cozumel is the island near here in Playa. And also, if you're into history, there's plenty of Mayan ruins around, Chichen Itza, which we didn't go to, and a bunch of other little ruins around the place. And of course, the Tulum ruins, which we saw at sunset, which was just beautiful by the water. So yeah, just to put it in perspective, we were here for a whole month and we barely scratched the surface of what you can do here in Playa del Carmen and the surrounding area. In fact, we definitely have to come back to this region of Mexico again. This has just been an amazing place to check out. And yeah, you could spend a month here and just do cenotes every day, or go to different beaches and stuff. It's just beautiful. So what a great introduction to Mexico. I know this is not real Mexico per se because it's very touristic, and while Playa del Carmen looked beautiful from a distance, we were concerned about safety before we got here, but I must say we felt very safe here, and we don't really have any concerns about that anymore. Especially in this area, there are police everywhere and they're armed like crazy, and just in general, we don't feel like anyone's out to get us, and we haven't heard too many bad stories. So we feel quite safe here. Now, of course, Thailand is still our favorite country in terms of the digital nomad lifestyle, but I see Mexico as having just as much potential. I mean, the weather is great, the food is amazing and inexpensive, the people are nice, the landscapes are beautiful, and especially for North Americans, the time zone is a hell of a lot more favorable than what you'd experience in Asia, perhaps. So in future, I would hope to see more co-working spaces and co-living spaces being developed across Mexico, as the nomad scene appears to be quite small here. But other than that, I can't really fault it. I mean, it's just a shame Mexico is so far away from my homeland of Australia. Otherwise, I'd definitely spend a lot more time here. And yeah, I just can't speak highly enough about Mexico. Great country, and I've only just seen a small part of it. Alright, that's it guys. Thanks for watching. Remember, there's a blog post accompanying each of these videos on my website, christhefreelancer.com. The article for this video will be at christhefreelancer.com/Playa del Carmen for digital nomads. This will be my last destination review for the year, as I'm off to the US next and just doing short trips there. But stay tuned for my upcoming videos from New York, Vegas, and LA, and of course, any upcoming destination reviews that we check out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button for new videos, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you then.